What up, bros? I'm Frank. This is a review of the Nerf Mega Mastodon. This is a flywheel, fully automatic Mega Blaster that holds 24 darts in its drum. Super fun blaster, not to spoil my opinion or anything, but I've had so much fun testing this thing. The Mastodon, being a flywheel-powered blaster, is of course battery-powered. It does take 6D batteries, which is quite heavy and quite expensive. Those batteries are installed on this side. You just take off the plate and then throw in the batteries and you're good to go. Batteries are not included with the blaster. What was included was the blaster, the drum in multiple components, the shield in 2 parts, as well as a little sling, and of course the darts in the manual. Small detail, but I think worth noting, the little attachment clamps are metal. Nerf really doesn't use metal that often for like exterior things like this. Why metal and not plastic? Well, because plastic would break, because with the batteries, this thing is really heavy. So we'll go over the external features in a bit more detail. Up front, it does not have an in-strike attachment nozzle. Being a Mega Blaster, if you put on an elite front attachment, the Mega Dart would get, trapped in there. Up top is the front sling mount. Because they include a sling, it's totally only a sling mount and not just a decorative little hole. And that corresponds with the rear sling mount right here. So, if you don't want to carry it, just throw it over your sling. Although I do have a comment about that. Totally taking it off for the review though, because it makes a bunch of noise. Up in the front here, there is an in-strike tactical rail if you want to put a vertical grip, or, a scope if you want to shoot it upside down. Just kidding, of course. And there's also another tack rail here, as well as here. Not one continuous one, but even the continuous ones don't have multiple locking nuts. This one does have the 2 little in-strike attachment teeth right here. Moving down to the drum, 24 dart capacity, which for an elite blaster, they have the 35 round drum, but for a Mega Blaster, that's insane. Look at the size of this thing. It is wicked big. I might be throwing your scale off because I'm a little bit bigger than the average human, but this is the Mega Roto Fury, kind of dwarfed in comparison, and then here's the puny little Strife. Puny and Strife don't often go together, but physical size, compared to this thing. Underneath the blaster, there is a little cage here that protects the drum, so if you set the blaster down as I am here, you're not going to damage the drum, and you can actually fire from this position, and the drum can rotate freely. And if you can see that, to reload, you can just manually turn the drum. That's not breaking the blaster, that's how it's intended to be used. When firing, it is a fully automatic blaster, meaning the drum will rotate by itself as it fires, but then to reload, obviously, you manually rotate it to get to all the barrels. On the opposite side, you have the access door in the event of a jam. It is worth noting, I put about 1,000 rounds through this today. I didn't have any jams at all. But you can get your finger in there and clear out any jams. Turret blasters, in my experience, are a little bit more reliable than magazine-fed blasters. Perhaps when you upgrade it and you run it on a lipo, you might, because it's cycling a little too quick for the design, but whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Up top is the carry handle. It pivots on this axis here, and then this handle also rotates a little bit. And the 2 pivoting points makes it really comfortable because the blaster can really flow really easily. So if you wanted to shoot up and down or twist this hand, it's not like you have to switch your grip or anything. You just grip onto it, and the pivoting allows you to comfortably aim wherever you'd like. Small detail, but it really makes the difference when you're carrying something so heavy and big compared to most other Nerf blasters. It is big and it is heavy, so it's not like you're gonna be wielding a pistol, turning around corners super fast or anything, but considering its size, it is pretty easy to manipulate, because you gotta go from those advanced weapon manipulations and all of that from, Magpul Dynamics. Just kidding, but seriously. Already mentioned this tack rail. It is worth noting there are no tack rails underneath the blaster or on either side of the blaster. I imagine that's because if you put a light here, you might be disappointed that it casts a weird shadow, or on the side, this is such a dynamic blaster, like geometrically, that using flashlights or any of the attachments would be tricky back here, or they were just trying to be cheap and they didn't want to put another rail on. I don't know. All the way to the back of the blaster, nothing else to point out until you get to the grip. This is a flywheel blaster, like I mentioned, so you have to strike the rev trigger before pulling the primary trigger. If you've used a Strife, Modulus, Rapid Strike, the other flywheel blasters, it works the same way, except it's Mega, which is super cool. And in theme with the Mega line, the grip is a little oversized. I think it's comfortable, yet it won't alienate a small hand. I've already mentioned the rear sling mount, so that's actually the entire blaster, kind of the overview. This blaster does take the Mega Darts, not the Nerf Elite Darts. If you can see them side by side, I'm sure you've used a Mega Blaster by now, or at least seen them. You can't feed the Elite Darts, it only takes the Megas, but to feed, you just, pop them in there, just like any other cylinder system or a turret. The blaster holds 24 darts ready to fire. If you forget how many it holds, it says it right there on the drum. After you have the cylinder loaded up, you just hold down the rev switch and hit the trigger, and it's a fully automatic blaster that just goes pew 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 really fast. Oh man. Got some fancy targets downrange that should make some cool noise when I strike them down with the Mastodon. So hopefully I can actually hit stuff. That was embarrassingly poor performance. Lucky for us, those targets aren't shooting back.
That was embarrassingly poor performance.
The targets used were little containers of Viter Energy mints. These are caffeine mints. And as far as Nerf targets go, they make a really nice clingy noise when you hit them and they fall down and it sounds awesome. Link in the description box to Viter Energy mints if you'd like to purchase any. So yeah, shooting this thing is a ball. It's so much fun. It's like shooting Elite Blaster, but bigger and badder and, you know, heavier. I'm pretty satisfied with the rate of fire and especially the velocity. On the chronograph, I was achieving an average velocity of about 78 feet per second, which is a little high on the Mega line or compared to the other Mega Blasters, which is what we want. You know, it shoots harder, it shoots further, you know, awesome. The accuracy is going to be the same as any other Nerf Blaster and especially any other Mega Blaster, but, you know, powerful and fast. So now to my opinion on the Mega Mastodon. Overall, cost aside, I have had so much fun firing this blaster. It's big, it's badass, it makes you feel like a badass, it shoots really fast. For a Mega Blaster, it holds a ton of ammo, and it shoots on the higher end of velocity. So overall, the product I think is fantastic. Because it's so big and so heavy, it's not really practical to run around with, and even though it comes with a sling, it's not really optimized geometrically to be slung as a secondary or to switch to a secondary and throw it over your back. The best type of blasters for that, in my opinion, are very flat-sided blasters, so nothing's ramming into your back. If this is on your back, and it's slung tightly so it's not like wobbling around, this thing or something is going to be protruding into your back, which isn't super comfortable. The sling is fantastic, so you don't actually have to hold it, so you can just kind of sling it over one shoulder or whatever, and it aids you in sort of carrying it. That's kind of the only reason I would use that sling for this blaster. And it's way too big and heavy to throw one point on it to like tactically throw it out of the way, because that would flop around and like fracture something. It's heavy. And it doesn't show up on video, but it just thuds every time it fires, so it feels so powerful. It's so big, and it just fires, I think, hard. The rate of fire is pretty good for an out-of-the-box, unmodified blaster, so the performance, I'm happy with it. But to clearly articulate my cons here, or what I don't like about the blaster, first, I paid about $80 US, and that's the retail price in the United States. They change around the world. But 80 bucks is expensive for a Nerf blaster, and 24 darts with this type of range and velocity. If you want to try to empirically compare it to an Elite Blaster, you could get a whole lot more for much less money. One could argue the Rapid Strike or the Hailfire outperforms this blaster, is much lighter and much cheaper. You could buy 2 of those instead of 1 of these. It's also very bulky and heavy. You know, it takes 6 D batteries. D batteries are heavy. It takes 6 of them. I mean, that adds more to the cost because they're super expensive batteries. And you're just clunking around a lot of weight. So if you want to turn a corner, lift up over a couch fort or whatever, you're carrying a ton of weight, and it's really difficult to sling comfortably, as I've already covered. So my overall opinion and kind of final verdict on the Mastodon is really kind of mixed because it's completely based on money. If someone said, hey, do you want a Mastodon? I'd say, yeah, man, I'd totally use that, especially if they gave me a bunch of Mega Darts because I don't have a huge collection of those. But then when you bring in the money side, $80 is a lot for a Nerf blaster that you could use on a lot of other blasters. It works really well. It's super fun to use, and it's just like, say hello to my little friend, and I just wanted to say that every time I pick this thing up just because it's awesome. I mean, shoot, look at it. And I was expecting it to jam or have some type of flaw, but it shoots hard velocity-wise, it shoots a quick rate of fire, and it's overall really comfortable to use. But the cost is a major factor, so that's kind of the biggest thing that I would ask you to kind of compare. If you're interested in purchasing one, sort of weigh this compared to 2 Rapid Strikes, 2 Hailfires, or, you know, a bunch of other blasters plus ammo, because it's a lot of money. So kind of a mixed review there, but if they go on sale for like 50% off, totally get one on my recommendation if you want to. But that's the review. Hopefully I've given you all the information you need to know whether or not you'd like to purchase the Nerf Mega Mastodon, and I'll post other buy links as they become available. But that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, stay tactical. Say hello to my tactical little friend. Yeah, I just revised that. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I'll stop. I'll stick to the normal quotes. I'm done.
That was embarrassingly poor performance.